more than 20 people were killed in Gaza and 4 more were killed in Israel after the two sides launched rockets at each other. CBS News Foreign correspondent Seth Doane is in Ashkelon, Israel, near the Gaza border.
Israel's military struck back, hitting about 350 targets in the Gaza Strip. One of those Palestinian targets had been riding in this car. Israel's military says it was a senior Hamas figure. It was the first targeted assassination by Israel since 2014. Palestinians say an infant was also killed in one of the airstrikes. Her body was carried in a funeral procession. Her father said the children were playing and were struck by a missile shot from a drone. Palestinians fired close to 700 rockets and projectiles toward Israel. About 200 of them were intercepted, but one hit near this house.
Well, we see the substantial damage.
Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus showed us the damage today. He says this round of violence was sparked after Israeli soldiers were shot at by Palestinians during weekly Friday protests at the border. These ceasefires seem short-lived. Do you have any confidence that this will hold?
There's no balance in this equation, and unfortunately, once the other side has an open goal of trying to militarily destroy Israel, it leaves very little room for optimism.
All right, Seth is joining us now. So, Seth, what is it like where you are at the moment?
Well, there is still tension, but also a bit of relief here after what residents tell us was really an absolutely terrifying 48 hours as those rockets were fired into this part of Israel. Around 700 rockets and projectiles fired out of the Gaza Strip. We're hearing from Jonathan Conricus, the lieutenant colonel there, that about 100 of them never made it outside of the Gaza Strip and that they were still calculating exactly the percentage, but he was estimating around 65% may have landed in open, uninhabited areas, but some landed in residential areas like the one we're standing in now. So just if you look over here, you can see this hole in the ground where one of the Palestinian rockets hit right next to a house, completely destroying the wall here and pushing shrapnel. You can see how it destroyed trees that they're just cleaning up now. There's some sawing and such going on. And through shrapnel into the side of this house, you can see all of the pockmarks in the house there from the shrapnel from that rocket, and also destroying the windows. We were in there earlier as they were just starting to sweep out. This rocket here killed the owner of this house. So when rockets come into neighborhoods like this, it certainly absolutely rattles nerves. And if you compare it with the numbers of rockets that in that last real escalation, major escalation, was back in 2014, and there were reports at the time of around 150 rockets per day being fired out of Gaza. Well, in the last 48 hours, or in this 48-hour period, there were close to 700, so nearly double the number per day. So really terrifying residents here in this part of Israel. Vlad?
So, Seth, what's been the reaction to the reports of a potential ceasefire, and what new details are we learning about this possible deal?
Well, you would like to say people are optimistic about the ceasefire. I would say people would be cautiously optimistic, or perhaps even a little bit skeptical, as they've seen this before. There were some promising, encouraging signs over the last couple of weeks that this ceasefire might hold. We were here in Israel and crossed into the Gaza Strip just before the election, when there was a fear of violence increasing. We were at some of those Friday protests, and at the time there was a lot of talk about what a ceasefire deal might look like. Now, we don't really know many specifics. We know from the Palestinian side that there is interest in expanding fishing zones. They were looking to open borders between Israel and Gaza, and also Gaza and Egypt, and also looking to be able to get some foreign funding for humanitarian needs there. But people inside Gaza were telling us, look, after this blockade enacted by both the bordering countries of Israel, but also of Egypt, that there is real pain and suffering inside there. That, of course, is why we've seen these weekly protests on the border. And we know that it's the United Nations and Egypt who have been trying to broker this ceasefire. So I would say cautious optimism, but people have seen promise of a ceasefire before.
You know, this fighting has been some of the worst that we've seen in 5 years. I mean, I guess, given the level of violence that is happening there, did we lose Seth's picture? Oh, okay. Given the level of violence that we've seen there, Seth, I'm guessing that people are probably feeling at least some hope that there could be an end to this.
Absolutely. There is this sense of relief here today. We were talking with one resident earlier who was describing this terrifying weekend of these almost minute by minute. It seemed that they were getting a new siren, a new alarm that was asking them to run in to take shelter. All of these homes in this area. In fact, I don't know if David can show you here, but just behind where this rocket landed in the ground here, that what looks like a vault is part of a safe room of an Israeli home. Now, all of these homes have these safe rooms, and there are also bomb shelters that are set up along the road here. So if a rocket comes, the siren goes. Some people have apps on their phones that tell them that a rocket is incoming, and they have just a matter of seconds to run to safety. We were speaking with one resident earlier today who was describing running out of his car to try to take shelter. They took shelter on the ground. He described his wife crying. There is real terror here, and you can imagine this happening minute after minute after minute. And they're also seeing a higher number of rockets being launched at the same time from the Gaza Strip. So, of course, not all of them getting out of Gaza, many of them landing in uninhabited areas. There's kind of crude weapons in some ways, but they can have deadly effects, and certainly there is the effect of terrifying residents here.
All right, Seth Doane reporting from Israel. Seth, thank you as always. We appreciate it.